Hi, it's Matthew Dickson of mindaid.ca, and I just want to tell you a little bit more about myself and where I'm coming from and what I'm trying to do with mental health in developing countries. I've got schizophrenia, and that's a challenge. That's a challenge to say the least. And I'm trying to help people with mental illness in countries that right today, well, I mean, with COVID, I can't travel there. But I don't know if there wasn't any COVID today, if I'd have the health to go there myself. In 2011, I went to Toronto in Canada. I'm a Canadian, and Toronto's a big city. I come from a small town on the east coast of Canada, and Toronto was too big for me. I've been out to Vancouver, and throughout my recovery, I'm 48. I got diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was 22, and I have been able to go out to Vancouver and Calgary, and but Toronto in 2011 was too much for me. And a lot of things with schizophrenia don't really make sense in your mind. It's, I mean, they kind of make sense to me. Like I know why I'm doing the things I'm doing, but they don't really make sense sometimes. Even to me, it's just the way I feel. It kind of runs you. It kind in some ways. It's so anyway. So I've been into the States a little bit, but I've never been to outside North America ever in my life. And some countries, I, I mean, even if I went to Europe today, that might be a challenge for me. I don't know. Other countries, Africa, India, I don't have the strength to go there these days. Maybe someday I will. I shouldn't say no. But I going through schizophrenia, I you really have to. I mean, I lived in a psych ward for a year. What in and out of the psych ward six, 7 times, and anywhere from a few days to a couple months. I think 2, 3 months maybe were the longest I spent in the psych ward. That was in 1994 and 95, 96, 97. I was in a group home, and it's a lot of my dreams are shattered. So many things are just written off my list of possible things I could do. And slowly, year by year, I got my health back. But having spent time in a psych ward and a group home, and having been so disabled, not able to do so many things, and wondering, I was living in a state of terror, and for many years, and to one of the things I sort of thought I may have acquired was depression era thinking, like the 1920s depression, like my grandparents, people of that era who saved every penny because they didn't know what was, what might. They were just very financially uh, in trouble, and so I sometimes wonder that if I got a bit of that from for myself, having been so deprived of just my abilities, and I sometimes wonder if that was something that made me just more conscious of don't spend too much, don't buy a big house, don't buy a big car, and all those sorts of things. At the same time, Scott Harrison of charitywater.org, he gives people clean water in developing countries, and he's been a real inspiration for me. I've gained a lot of knowledge from him, and his story just resonates with me. I've watched his videos, most of the videos on his YouTube channel, and also I've watched a lot of his interviews on TV, on the internet. He has a lot of usually about an hour long interviews that he's posted over the last so many years, and his story just resonates with me. He has raised about a third, maybe more now, a third of $1 billion, billion with a B, over the last 14, 15 years or so. And but he himself, he says he was living in a small one-bedroom apartment for years. He has a wife and 2 kids now, and he used to, before he got into advocacy work, he was a nightclub promoter, and he drove a BMW and had lots of fancy, expensive belongings, but he doesn't do that anymore. He drives a Kia, a little Kia car now. And he's just been a real inspiration for me to living a very frugal life himself, yet raising so much money to help people who are in desperate need of it. And I sometimes wonder, can I be like that myself someday? Will that be me? My health has gotten to the point where I can live a semi uh, relatively normal life and actually enjoy it. It took me 26 years of recovery to get this far, and I noticed an improvement in my health every single week for the last 26 years. I had ups and downs throughout that time, like most people would have ups and downs in their life. But for the most part, overall, I've improved every week, every year for the last 26 years. And I'm feeling the last 2 years, I've felt peace and contentment for the first time. And over the last 2 years, those feelings of peace and contentment have come on more often and for longer periods of time. And now in September of 2020, I am actually having peace like all the time. It's wonderful, especially this last week or two. It's just it's it's wonderful to just sit here and enjoy life for an entire day. Just to sit here and feel peace and contentment. I've lived a life of torment and torture to get this far. I gave up a lot. I gave up an awful lot in order to get this. And so many people with mental illness give up things. They just they you have to give up and sacrifice and sacrifice and sacrifice in the hopes that maybe someday it'll get better and that you can enjoy your life again. And I don't know why, but for whatever reason it happened to me. I People say, Matthew, you fought hard, you're smart, and all these reasons. Well, I mean, not all these reasons, but people say stuff like that, and they say that's why I got better. And I sometimes have a problem with that. I don't know if I mean I did work hard, but I knew the whole time I could work just as hard and not get anywhere. I wasn't guaranteed any success. And I should paint a rosier picture. I should be telling people that if you have a mental illness, there is hope. It's not all doom and gloom. There is hope. I kind of have to walk this fine line between giving people hope, but also letting people know, especially the people who haven't been through it before, who've never experienced mental illness or severe pain of any kind in their life, that I try to I try to convey to them how horrible it really is. Yet I have to give messages of hope. I clung to hope, clung to it, like holding on to a piece of thread. At the end of your rope, I was at the end of my thread. So it's there is hope, but I also want to tell people it's a tough, long, arduous journey out of this nightmare of mental illness. So I try to live my life frugally. I I try not to, but I buy most of my clothes secondhand. I don't drive expensive cars. I'm on my second, no, my third Subaru now. It's, sometimes I think about not owning a car. I rent a room in a house and I don't own a home. I owned a home for 15 years and a small home, and I got rid of that. And I quite like the freedom of not owning my own home. So I'm trying to get other people excited and about helping people with mental health in developing countries. It's a cause I didn't know about for most of my recovery through my own mental illness. It was a TED talk I stumbled on in 2016, 2017, that winter, by Vikram Patel, talking about mental health in developing countries. And it opened my eyes. I thought, well, I never thought about depression in Africa or OCD or anxiety or bipolar. I never thought about that. I knew about buying goats and microcredit and building schools and drilling wells. But I never thought about, well, what if they've got depression? What do they do? If there's no hospital for hundreds of miles, what do they do? Where do they go? Who helps them? And so that opened my eyes. And I know that a lot of other people who here in North America and other developed uh, places in the world. I know a lot of them aren't thinking about that either. A lot of the people I talked to, I'd say, I don't know, I don't really keep count, but roughly two-thirds, three-quarters of the people I talk to, when I say things like some countries have one psychiatrist per million people, they go, really? Like, yeah, I didn't know that either. Never thought about it. It wasn't spelled out for me. And it makes me think on a side, on a tangent here, what about cancer or other ailments that people have in developing countries? What kinds of treatments, what organizations are helping them? Is there a Cancer for People in Africa organization that people here in North America are raising money for? I don't know. What other ailments go to, and then when you start thinking about it, there's a long list of ailments, all the things that we have here, they've got too. So yeah, so I'm trying to focus on mental health. I think that's where I'll have the most impact. But I don't know if I'll ever be able to raise a third of $1 billion like Scott. I don't know. He started out small. He started out raising small sums of money 14, 15 years ago. Maybe I'll be like that someday. I also have to question my health. Will I be able to would I ever be able to handle the stress of running a nonprofit and raising a third of $1 billion? Could I handle that mentally? I've been told by my mental health care professionals that I should watch my stress levels for the rest of my life. So I don't know. I'm trying this. I've got a website, mindaid.ca, and I'm trying to raise awareness for the cause. And for people to donate money, you can donate directly on my website, and I give that money to 4 nonprofits that I found, and those are listed on the website. Those are small nonprofits helping on the ground in Africa, India, and one's called Strong Minds, and they help people with depression in Africa, women with depression in Africa. Another one, afinemind.org, and they help people in Uganda get mental health care treatment. And basicneedsus.org, they help people in a number of countries around the world get basic mental health care. And the Minds Foundation, they help people in India. So, what? Two things. I try to raise awareness. I believe that if everybody simply knew about this, if this was mainstream conversation, that millions of people would want to help in some way. I know there are armies of people helping people get clean water. Scott Harrison's one of them. But where are the armies of people helping people with mental health care, people with mental illness in developing countries? Where are these armies of people helping them? And I'm hoping that in the last 10 years, since mental health has become so much more socially acceptable to talk about, that things will change. And with COVID now and people talking even more about mental health, that at some point here, people will be talking about mental health in developing countries, just like we're talking about microcredit and drilling wells and building schools in developing countries, mosquito bed nets, malaria. We know all this stuff. This is mainstream conversation. And I'm hoping that at some point the cause of mental health in developing countries will be mainstream conversation. Everyone will know about it. It's just, yeah, that's the thing. Instead of me talking to people and them screwing up their faces like, really, that's going on. So, yeah, that's a bit about me. I I'm living frugally. I try to help people with mental health in developing countries, and I'm hoping that that I can get other people excited about this and enthusiastic and saying, look, like maybe I could help. Maybe it's just sharing a post. I mean, people can. I mean, I can tout myself. I mean, I can tell people if you want to do anything, share my website. As if you're not on social media, just talk to people about it. Start a conversation. Just that's free and easy and cheap to do. Usually, when I talk to people about it, it's pretty easy to when you meet someone at the grocery store or somewhere to drop mental health into a conversation. It's fairly easy to do these days. And if you want to go a step further, there's a lot of shock value to mental health in developing countries. Like it just takes a matter. It might be like 30 seconds, and I can paint a little picture for people, plant a little seed in their head, saying, "Look, this is a cause. It's happening, and it needs a lot more help." And I don't have to go on for an hour talking to them about it. It's just I can usually accomplish that in just a matter of seconds, really. The three stats I throw out are some countries have one psychiatrist per million people. I usually lead with that. At the end, I say uh, some people with mental illness are actually kept in chains in some countries. That's shock. That's shocking. And the other stat I throw out is over 270 million people in developing countries have no mental health care. It's those three sentences that are the main things I mention in a conversation, and just that little seed can really spread. At least I'm hoping it can spread. That's how I usually uh, that's what usually how I go with my conversations when I meet people. So yeah, people can. I'm hoping more people could talk about this. Just mention it in casual conversation. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. If you want to do more, I've got posts. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can share it. You can email my website to people. And I'm, yeah, people are suffering. People are suffering in countries that I may not ever be able to go to. And people say, well, we should help people here at home. And I'm in Canada. I try to help people here with mental health issues. I'm trying to focus the most on people with mental illness in developing countries. I think they need the most help. Someone from the United Nations and Harvard University said recently, in the last year, that all countries in the world are developing countries when it comes to mental health. So that's something else to consider. It's we all need help everywhere. I do believe though that people in developing countries have a lot of other problems that we don't, and that's why I'm trying to focus the most on them. Some people say, we shouldn't be giving medications to people in developing countries. That's up for debate, and I know I'm on medication, and I'm very glad I had it. For people who want to help people with mental health care in developing countries, Strong Minds, one of the ones I mentioned earlier in this video, uh, they don't use medications. It's all talk-based group therapy, uh, treating women with depression at scale in Africa. Strongminds.org. If you want to help them, go directly to their website and help them. So, yeah, uh, thanks for listening. Hope that's helpful. And yeah, thank you.